Surely no one's spending $1 billion again this offseason, right? Right? Welcome to The Dugout. I'm your host, Joseph Silva, and on today's episode, we are predicting the landing spots of MLB.com's top 10 free agents. Who's going where? Who's signing with the Dodgers? How much money is Juan Soto getting? Stay tuned to find out. But before we get started, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the Run the Play Network. The Emirates Cup has begun, and the boys at You Know Ball are going to cover it in a big way. I wouldn't want to miss out on that whatsoever. So we start with the number 10 free agent, which is former Marlins and Padres closer Tanner Scott. In 2024, he pitched 72 games, coincidentally, also threw 72 innings, with a 1.72 ERA, 84 strikeouts, and a 1.13 whip. He does have a big walk problem. That is a huge red flag for me. 12.6 career walk rate, way above the MLB average. However, he has a very high ground ball rate and weak contact, way above the MLB average, which is really good in this era of launch angles and lifting the ball. On top of that, too, he does have a high walk rate, but despite that, he gets a lot of chases, and when they do chase, they don't make contact hardly ever. He's got a very great skill set, deadly against lefties. We saw that and what he did to Ohtani in the playoffs in the division series. Tanner Scott is going to earn himself a lot of money. Now, teams that are looking at him, the Blue Jays can use a new closer. Jordan Romano had a very bad year. Lost the closer role. I don't think he's going to get it back. Blue Jays need a closer. Phillies lose both Estevez and Hoffman this offseason. Strahm is currently projected to close, but Kirkring and Jose Alvarado can be good options for the closer role as well, but they do need someone to fortify the back end of that bullpen. Yankees, you saw it in the playoffs, especially the World Series. They don't have the depth in the bullpen. That's why Nestor Cortez had to go face Freddie Freeman in Game 1. That's why Luke Weaver basically pitched every game that series. It was a disaster in terms of depth. They can use a new closer. And to the Rangers are a little bit sneaky. They're losing Kirby Yates. I don't necessarily trust Josh Sborz 100% with the closer role. They can be someone that's in the market for a closer, especially because they do have a lot of salary flexibility as well. And where does he end up going? I think he's going to be a Texas Ranger. They had a very disappointing World Series title defense, and they need to make big moves, splashy moves. I think Scott fits very well in that ballpark. I think he is going to be a great closer in Arlington. At number 9, they have Jack Flaherty, my hero, of course. In 2024, he started 28 games through 162 innings with a 3.17 ERA, 194 strikeouts, and a 1.07 whip. This is by far the best year of Jack Flaherty's career, even if you look at 2019 in that remarkable second half. He finally put it all together in a great way, and you saw truly what the best of Jack Flaherty can be. When he's on, his best pitches are the curveball slider, which is a lot different from that famous second half in 2019 where the fastball was just dominant. He's really now relying on his breaking stuff more as his out pitches, and that's very good for him in the long term. But he's not going to be an ace. We saw that in the playoffs, especially in the championship series and the World Series. When he had to face a team a second time in the postseason, he got blown up both times. So overall, it's not necessarily the best thing if you're relying on him to be your ace, despite the fact that the Dodgers did win the World Series with him as their Game 1 starter. And if you're looking at it, he's going to be a low 2, high 3. That's really the role he should be occupying on teams. And of course, looking at teams he could be going to, of course, the Dodgers want to have him back. He wants to be back in Los Angeles. He is the hometown kid. It's really about the number in LA. Mets are losing both Quintana and Manaea in the offseason. They can really use someone to back up Kodai Senga in that rotation. That'd be a great spot for him as well. Red Sox, same thing. Tanner Houck had an incredible year. Cutter Crawford was solid. We don't know if Pavetta's coming back on the qualifying offer or is signing a long-term deal in Boston, so he can slot into that rotation quite nicely. And again, the Texas Rangers DeGrom is coming back, but you don't know what he's going to be like to start the year. Kumar Rocker, Molly, Leiter, That rotation has a lot of question marks in it and can use someone who can get you dependable innings, which is why I think he will be a Texas Ranger. And for 5 years, $100 million, is they've shown they're willing to give more years to starters to kind of lock them up. And I think 100 is about what can get Jack Flaherty in Texas, and he will just be a dependable arm that can eat innings for that rotation. At number 8 is Willy Adames, the shortstop formerly of the Milwaukee Brewers. Overall, he had a fine 2024, 251 average, 32 home runs, drove in 112 runs, 21 stolen bases, good for a 794 OPS and a 118 OPS plus. Great season from Adames. You know what you're getting from him overall. I like to say he's selectively aggressive because he has an average chase rate but an 80% walk rate. So he really will shorten up with 2 strikes, really take those borderline pitches. But early in the counts, he's going to be attacking, really looking to drive the ball and just put the ball in play overall. And he doesn't hit the ball hard, but he does know how to barrel it up very, very well, which is a great sign. And on top of that, he's a very great defender. Took a step back a little bit, but still one of the better defenders at the most premium position in the infield. Teams looking to get Adames, Toronto Blue Jays. He said he's willing to move to third base, so he could probably play third base with Bichette occupying short, and you don't even know what the future is going to be like with Bo anyways. He had a very bad 2024. He's only on the team for 1 more year. Toronto is a sneaky player. Dodgers can use a shortstop. They have been linked to him. They are arguably the favorites for Adames because they had, if I remember correctly, like 4 or 5 different players play short. None of them were a fantastic shortstop until we got Edman. So they need a shortstop badly. And then the Giants, too. Fitzgerald played a fine shortstop, was really more known for what he did with the bat than what he did with his glove. Marco Luciano has not lived up to that top prospect billing he had for the Giants. Just very disappointing for him. I don't see him being the shortstop long-term in San Francisco, and that's why I think he is going to be a San Francisco Giant. I suppose he needs to come in and make a big splash move his first year as president of baseball operations, and I think that's going to be the splash move. As Fitzgerald profiles better as a second baseman, Chapman's got third on lock, and you really just have to see like what you have with Luciano at this point. Either trade him or just get rid of him at this point. I don't believe in the upside. That's why they need to sign Willy Adames. At number 7 is the man, the myth, the polar bear, Pete Alonso himself. In 2024, he hit 240 with 34 home runs, 88 RBIs, good for a 788 OPS and a 123 OPS plus. You know, he has a good plate approach, but he's still very strikeout prone, which is concerning given the track record of power hitting first baseman and how they tend to age. But he absolutely smokes the ball. 89% in the percentile in the barrel rate, 80% hard hit rate. Absolutely will crush that thing no matter where it's hit. We saw him dig one out in the championship series against the Dodgers. Great bat to ball skills when he has it on. But it's not going to age the best. I think a lot of that power comes from down below, and you see what happens with a lot of those type of players. He is going to fall off a cliff hard at some point, and it's really when is he going to do it. So if you're looking for teams that can sign him, you know, Houston has a massive glaring hole at first base. They are going to sign one of the free agents for sure. Of course, the Mets need a first baseman. They would love to have him back. He's, of course, a Mets legend and really the anchor of that lineup. And then, too, the Yankees can use a first baseman, too. I don't know if they're willing to shell out the money, since Hal Steinbrenner said do not expect $300 million payrolls going forward. But it just feels wrong if he's not a New York Met. I have him signing there 6 years, $150 million. It just feels right for the polar bear to be a Met. He really is a fan favorite, embodies the Mets to a T. I think he's going to be a great part of the Mets offseason and future. And I don't think the Mets are done just yet. But we'll hear about that more after this ad break.
We want to give a huge shout out to Boom Fantasy for sponsoring this episode. Boom Fantasy is a betting app like something you have never seen before. Their pick and spin feature allows you to cash out up to 500 times your money on a 2-leg parlay. If that's not your style, they have a traditional pick'em as well. You can play with different stat odds and different payout odds that'll shift accordingly. Sign up with Boom with the link in the description or use code RTP when signing up for a risk-free $250 bet. Simple, fun, daily fantasy sports. Gamble responsibly.
Now, at number 6, we have Anthony Santander, the DH/outfielder of the Baltimore Orioles. In 2024, he hit .235 with 44 home runs, 102 RBIs, good for an 814 OPS, 135 OPS plus. He has solid contact skills. You may not think that from the batting average, but he does not have that high of a whiff rate. Really, the problem is, if you're looking at batting average, is he lifts the ball like a mofo. So that's where all the power comes from. That's also where a lot of the outs come from. So I can see if he starts to flatten that swing out a little bit more with age, that he can maintain having a solid career. But, he's a poor base runner. He's a poor defender. He does have to be a DH long term. I don't see him playing a corner outfield spot that long. And the base running skills are just bad. He's not going to steal bases. He's not going to take the extra bases. He's slow on the base pass. Really a concern overall. So if you're looking at teams, the Blue Jays, again, need a bat. They need to make a splash in the biggest way to kind of save this core. The Guardians can really use some thump in that lineup. It really was Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, maybe Big Christmas, and after that, just a bunch of dudes. So they need to complement that pitching staff in a big, big way. The Orioles would love to have him back. He was instrumental in help bringing along the young core. But that core is also going to be getting very expensive because Rutschman, Henderson, Kramer, Cowser, they're not really signed to long-term deals. Jackson Holliday, if he starts performing like he was, needs a big deal too. So they may not have the money to sign Santander. And two, the Phillies, they need a cleanup hitter. Castellanos is good but not great protecting Harper in that lineup. Real Muto has fallen off a cliff. Bohm is fine, but he's not necessarily who you think of as a cleanup hitter. And that's why the poor base running, the poor defense, that's a Philadelphia Philly through and through. They want guys who could hit the ball far, play okay defense, and just protect Harper. That's what they need. So he's going to be a Philly, 5 years, $100 million. Now, Max Fried is up next. And in 2024, he had a great season. 29 starts through 174 innings for a 3.25 ERA, good for a 128 ERA plus, a 1.16 whip, 166 strikeouts, which is good for 8.6 Ks per nine. He is a ground ball pitcher primarily. He's going to just induce a lot of weak contact, keep it on the ground. That's how he gets his outs, and that's where he finds his success. He doesn't have, the big swing and miss stuff, but still an above average league or above average whiff rate for the league, which is fantastic if you can have that paired with an elite ground ball pitcher. And the velocity has been consistent all throughout. He did have injury concerns the past 2 seasons, but I don't see him having huge injuries that are going to cost him a lot of time. So if you're looking for teams in the market for a starter like that, the Cubs need someone to back up Shota and Steele going forward. He would fit great in Chicago. Guardians really need a starting pitcher. You saw how much that cost him in the playoffs with the bullpen having to eat a majority in the innings, and that's what did him in the Yankees series. Phillies can use a starter maybe. Is Wheeler's going into the final year of his deal? Nola has been good, not great. Sanchez has been okay, but you're not really sure what you're getting out of him. Ranger Suarez, do you think he could keep it up? That's to be seen, so he would really fit well. Plus, Dombrowski loves a big 3 in terms of his rotation. Baltimore needs a starting pitcher in the worst possible way. The Braves would like to have him back because you don't know what you're going to get out of Spencer Strider. And the Dodgers, again, are going to be mentioned for every starting pitcher. And, call me crazy, but I think he's going to be a Dodger. He's not going to be signed long-term. I think he's going to get probably what Trevor Bauer got. 3 years, $105 million, 2 opt-outs, so he can opt out whenever he wants. They just need someone to come in and fill the rotation again because the arms are dropping like flies in Los Angeles. And Gonsolin's coming back from Tommy John. Kershaw's coming back from injury. May's coming back from Tommy John. So you really need someone who could just eat innings and provide length in this rotation. I think Max Fried can do that, returning back to Los Angeles, where he grew up playing ball. The number 4 free agent is Alex Bregman. He hit 260 with 26 home runs, 75 RBIs last year, good for a 768 OPS and a 118 OPS plus. Elite contact, elite eye. What is concerning though is the on-base percentage fell precipitously from elite to average last year. So really something you have to be wary of and really look at. Was it a weird year or is it going to be the norm going forward for Bregman? But, a lot of that was driven by a huge drop in his walk rate. If you can get that back up, get the patience back up, he should be fine overall. Very, very pull happy. We know this. He loves to pull the ball into the Crawford boxes at Minute Maid Park. And that's where a lot of the power is going to come from. A pulled fly ball, again, is the most likely fly ball to be in a home run. He knows this. He's going to take advantage of that. And he's a very rangy defender. He's not like Arenado, McMahon, or Chapman, who is just an unbelievable defender at third base, but he's still a great defender at third base, and you're going to want that going forward. Houston's going to want him back, but the core is getting older. Kyle Tucker's looking to get $300 million. Do they sign Bregman back at a hometown discount? That is yet to be seen. Diamondbacks do need a third baseman. Eugenio Suarez was great, not good. He can provide a lot of veteran leadership in that team as well. Tigers have been a team linked to Bregman for forever. They do need a lot of bats in that lineup to complement the pitching chaos they had going on for the whole regular season. But I'm concerned because that's not necessarily the shortest right field or left field in the league, so I don't think he's going there. Mariners, again, they need someone desperately that can hit. We talk about Coors Field being a hitter's paradise. Safeco Field is kind of a pitcher's paradise. No one wants to go there, and they do need someone that can just hit there. But I do think he's going to be a Mariner. They're going to shock everyone. They're going to have to pony up. I think they give him 6 years, $180 million because they just need a bat in the worst possible way. Julio Rodriguez really did not have a great year by his standards last year. And other than that, Arozarena was good in his time with Seattle. Turner was good, but they need a lot of big bats. They need someone who can make contact in the worst possible ways. He knows what it's like to hit in Seattle. Left field is probably the best place to go if you want home runs in that ballpark. I think he's going to be a Mariner and shock the world. Blake Snell is up next, and in his 20 starts last year, he threw 104 innings, good for a 3.12 ERA, 1.04 WHIP, 145 strikeouts, 12.5 Ks per nine. You know what it is about Blake Snell. He is the king of the strikeout. He is the king of swing and misses. 81st chase rate, 98% whiff rate. Unbelievable stuff for him. But I think the walks are just a concern. I don't like a pitcher who walks people as much as Snell. And I don't think it's sustainable over the long term, too. Is that Cy Young campaign in 2023 was really driven by the fact that he stranded 87% of base runners. And I don't care how good your stuff is. I don't care how many bats you're missing. It's not great over the long term. And it's really hesitant, for me at least, to kind of give him money. And if you're looking at it, the Giants would love to have him back to, be the number 2 behind Logan Webb because that rotation doesn't have anyone else besides Logan Webb you really trust. Padres would like to have him back for a reunion. Joe Musgrove's out with Tommy John. Yu Darvish is getting older. They kind of need someone else in that rotation too. And the Rangers, again, do need a lot of pitching depth with a lot of unknowns in that rotation. But he has to stay with the Giants, right? Oracle Park is another pitcher's paradise. He really found his groove going into the end of last season. And I think he should be a great Giant. And coming in as the number 2 free agent in this class, it's the best starting pitcher in this class, arguably the best in baseball, Corbin Burnes. He started 32 games last year, threw 194 innings with a 2.92 ERA, good for a 1.28 ERA plus, 1.10 WHIP, 181 strikeouts, 8.4 Ks per nine, which has been the worst of this Corbin Burnes resurgence era. The strikeout rate is way down, but still 181 strikeouts, 8.4 Ks per nine, still a great strikeout rate. But I'm really concerned overall. Yes, I wrote in my notes that he's Max Fried that misses bats, which is really, really good. But the second half was alarming. The velo was down. The whiff rate was down. He was getting hit hard. Yes, his defense wasn't doing him any favors. But there are a lot of red flags if you're looking for someone who wants to sign Corbin Burnes. You're not going to get the 2021 Cy Young Corbin Burnes back. He's not pitching at that kind of efficiency anymore. He's traded that for more volume, which is great, but you're starting to see a little bit of slippage, and I'm weary to sign him. But if you're looking at teams, Mets are a big one. They're going to really need a true ace, Kodai Senga. He is the number one, but he has said he does not want to be the number one going forward. Orioles would love to have him back. Quite frankly, they need to have him back because they need starting pitching in the worst possible way if they want to get over this bad playoff funk they've been in. Red Sox can use someone in that rotation to provide length and depth. The Nationals are kind of a sneaky one as they are a very interesting team. And I think they can be players for Corbin Burnes. But I think he's going to be a Red Sox. I think he's going to go 8 years, $250 million. They need to make a splash in the worst possible way. They have the big four in the farm system. The future looks very, very bright. Story's contract may come off the books soon. Depends on if he exercises that player option next year or not. But I think he is going to be a huge contributor in Boston and really be the number one there. And of course, the number one free agent, it's Juan Soto. He, if it wasn't for Ohtani, would be the free agent of the 2010s. I feel comfortable saying that because he's still so young. His skill set is going to age incredible. In 2024, he hit 288 with 41 home runs, 109 driven in, 989 OPS, good for a 170 OPS plus. Look, we know about the Soto shuffle. We know that he takes walks. He has the best eye in baseball, in my opinion. He hits the ball hard. Excellent plate approach. Super young. The skill set is going to age phenomenally because he's not one of those that takes advantage of that infamous short porch and right in Yankee Stadium. It's all about the eye, and he builds his approach from there. He's kind of Barry Bonds without the steroids, quite frankly. It's going to age phenomenally. So, and he's young, too. You're looking at a massive contract for him. Every team's in play. The Rays called. He's not answering that one, though. The Yankees need to have him back. As him and Judge were the best Yankees duo since Garrick and DiMaggio. Garrick and Maris. Mantle and Maris, sorry. Unbelievable stuff from him. The Giants are players. They need a big free agent in the worst possible way. In San Francisco, the Mets have unlimited financial resources and would love to have him in Queens. The Dodgers have been floated for him. I don't necessarily see it, but you never know. And ultimately, Steve Cohen said that 2025 is really the start of this big Mets window. Is the Dodgers had that free this last offseason they were planning for, and they went after it, were hard and aggressive, spent their $1 billion. Cohen is not going to spend $1 billion, but he's going to get pretty damn close. He's going to spend $800 million because I have Soto being a New York Met, 13 years, $650 million, is they need to make a splash in Queens, and this is going to be the big splash. It's the years Soto wants. It's the money he wants. It'd be the second highest AAV in baseball behind Ohtani on paper. Technically, he would be the highest paid player on a per-year basis in baseball. He is going to be phenomenal for the Mets, and I can't wait to see it. But let me know in the comments down below. Where do you think Juan Soto is signing? Who's spending $1 billion? How many of these free agents are going to be Dodgers? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the Run the Play Network, and don't forget on the way out, play ball.